What's up everybody, Andrew from NineLeaders, and today we are talking all things VUCA environment. If this is the first time that you are hearing this concept, you are definitely in the right place. Stick around, I'm going to give you 5 responses on how you can lead in this new world, as well as a couple tips in terms of how you can communicate a message to your people to really create the right environment to take advantage of all the opportunities that this environment has produced. This is NineLeaders. As you know, we focus on equipping new and experienced leaders with the skills required to take on 2021 and beyond. If this is the first time to the channel, welcome. Please hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to smash the subscribe button. This is the VUCA environment and how to respond and how to lead in a new world. Alright, so what does the VUCA environment mean? Now, in South Africa, we have a Zulu word, VUCA, V-U-K-A, and that means to rise up or rise up vigorously, rise up furiously. That's not what we're talking about at all. However, that response of rising up vigorously and furiously might very well be a pertinent response to the VUCA environment. That's not what we are talking about. The VUCA that we are talking about is VUCA. And this comes from a 1985 book, Leaders, Strategies for Taking Charge by Bennis and Nennis. I didn't make that up, they really do rhyme. And the concept is really around the environment that we find ourselves in this modern world. So VUCA is an acronym, VUCA, like I said, so it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, using those 4 concepts, I'm sure you can agree with me that 2020 has been the epitome of the VUCA environment: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We are living in a globalized, interconnected world where someone sneezes in Wuhan and it turns into a global pandemic, and Andrew cannot buy his alcohol in South Africa. Now, I don't mean to trivialize it at all. That's really not what I mean there. All I'm trying to reference here is the butterfly effect. Because we live in such a connected world, one thing will happen in one part of the world and it has ripple effects throughout the rest of the world. All right, so what do these terms actually mean? So volatility really revolves around unpredictability of things, how rapidly things can change. And if you look at, in terms of the last year, politics, economies, markets, a huge amount of volatility has taken place across the globe. When you start talking about uncertainty, that really talks to the unease and the feeling of being unsure around what can I do, what can't I do, what is the effect of the vaccine potentially further down the line, what are we going to do in the meantime. So again, a lot of uncertainty. When it comes to complexity, this is really speaking to the integrated world that we live in. Being globalized, there's a lot of agendas that are around, and how do you mobilize close to 7 billion people to respond to a pandemic like this? We've got so many things to weigh up, and with the biggest decisions, if you think back when the decision was made to close borders, to what degree? Losing potential millions of lives versus shutting down economies. Very, very complex and intricate and complicated decisions need to be taken. Last one, ambiguity, and this really talks to having more than one interpretation of a particular situation. And again, coming back to politics, coming back to global understanding, if you think about the WHO's response and how they encouraged the countries to originally shut down and then open up and then close down, different viewpoints on response, vaccines, going out in public, being isolating. So again, a lot of ambiguity around the world, and not only in terms of individuals, but as communities, as countries, as continents. All right, so how as leaders do we respond in this situation? What are the things that we need to do to be able to combat this VUCA environment and actually take advantage of the environment that we find ourselves sitting in? And I want to give you 5 key points that you need to bear in mind of how you can possibly respond. So the first one is really around clarity and understanding. You need to be open with your people around exactly what the current situation is. And you need to use confirmed data that you're basing your decisions on, and explain the process that you're working through. The second is around flexibility and agility. And this really talks about that ambiguous environment. You need to have plan A, plan B, and plan C sometimes. And you need to then monitor the environment to really ensure that has anything changed again, and do you need to change a bit of a track and the plan that you've got. The third element here is really around hope and support. And what this entails is creating a vision for your people of where you are going and ultimately how you are going to get there. And the important part here is to be able to communicate that message and tell people exactly what is going to be required, even in an ambiguous environment, creating as much clarity as you possibly can. The fourth element is around safety and stability. You need to be able to include your people in decisions that you're making and be able to give options. Be open around the situation and the circumstances, but really include them in the outcomes that you are hoping to achieve. You might not necessarily control those outcomes, but you are able to control your reaction to those outcomes. And the fifth point here is really around creating balance. As a leader, you're going to have to understand when you need to push for an outcome, when you need to pull for an outcome, and just when you need to bunker down and consolidate the gains that you have made already. All right, so those are 5 possible elements that you can actually employ into your business. But you're going to ask me the question, okay, well, that's all well and good, Andrew, but how the hell am I actually going to do that? As with anything in leadership, communication becomes of utmost importance during an environment and in times of crisis. And one of the frameworks that we like to use at NineLeaders is Dr. Bernice McCarthy's format framework. Now, format as in number 4, MAT, M-A-T. And this really is linked to learning styles, how people learn. So if I can tap into, as a leader, and I can create a message that responds and impacts on my people's learning capacities, it really goes a long way to driving my message home and creating that clarity and understanding. And McCarthy really talks around the 4 elements, as in format, of communication and learning. And it really is the why, the what, the how, and the what if. All right, so those 4 elements become incredibly important, as I said, around communicating your message effectively and creating understanding. And that first step there is the why. What is the purpose around us having this conversation? What is the purpose around this possible change that we might need to take? The what is, what exactly are we going to do? There might be an ambiguous environment, but these are the steps. This is what we are going to do. The third one is how. How are we going to go about this? How are we going to implement this change? How are we going to implement this innovation? And this really creates understanding for people. And the last one there is the what if. If we do this, this will be the outcome. If we don't do this, this will be the outcome. And if you can narrate a message around those 4 elements in that order, the why, the what, the how, and the what if, it's going to make your message a lot more impactful. It'll give your people that sense of certainty. It will cut through the ambiguity and make your message as simple as possible, which will obviously counteract the complexity. Unfortunately, very often when we are putting a message together, we don't necessarily use those same steps that McCarthy has put in place. We often start with the what if. And again, if you think about in a performance management conversation, how different a conversation would be when a manager would start off with one of the employees that's underperforming and going, Andrew, we need to have a conversation. You are about to get fired because of underperformance. You have not hit your sales targets. You've not closed enough deals. And automatically, from a neuroscience side of things, Andrew is now on the back foot. However, if you change the steps and you change the narrative, it becomes a lot more of a coaching conversation. For example, why? Andrew, I'm really concerned that you're not hitting your targets. I'm concerned that you're not taking home the salary that you require. And I really want to have a sit down and a conversation around how we can get you to that point of being successful. What we're going to do is we're going to look at your sales pipeline, we're going to look at your conversion rate, and we're going to look at your turnaround time. how we're going to do this on a weekly basis for the next 3 weeks. The two of us are going to sit and we're going to go through your pipeline from top to bottom, look at your prospects, and I'm going to help you convert each meeting. If we get this done and we do it correctly, we're going to see an improvement in your sales figures. If we don't, unfortunately, we're going to have a very different conversation. So in that context now, it's the same thing being said, but in very different ways. And the recipient, Andrew, would have a different reaction to that. One is offering help and offering support. The other one is giving the what if I don't do this, this is going to be the reaction and this is going to be the result. And I'm not saying this is going to be an easy task. To rewire your brain in terms of your own communication, as Simon Sinek says, you always need to start with the why. You need to give the purpose around whatever you're doing. And I think, like I said previously, we often get that order mixed up, and it becomes incredibly important to be able to follow that structure: the why, the what, the how, and the what if. If you are able to do that, you are going to be able to give your people that sense of certainty, that sense of structure, that bigger picture of where we're going and ultimately how we're going to get there, which in terms of the VUCA environment really, really aids that help and support and hope that your people will be able to need to be able to get through the current crisis. All right, so I certainly hope you've received some value in this podcast. If you have, hit the thumbs up button and smash the subscribe button down below. If you would like to receive the notes from today's podcast, they are in the description below. You just need to click on the link, 9 Leaders, the Leadership Journey, sign up for our newsletter, and you'll receive all the notes from today. All right, that's it. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.